Okay, it is 1:30. I am going to call a meeting to order. This is the September 19th Chartered Clubs Committee meeting. We are here to discuss the first part of the RR&Ps rewrite. We have a quorum. All committee members are present. There are no meeting minutes to approve. This is our first meeting for this topic, so there are no meeting minutes to approve. So to begin, I'm going to read an opening statement that I will read at each of the 4 meetings that we have for the RR&Ps. The purpose of the Chartered Clubs Committee meeting here is to review the RR&Ps as revised over the summer of 2023. These meetings will occur on the 19th of September, 24th of October, 21st of November, and 19th of December. Each of those meetings will be held at 1:30. The goal of each meeting will be to review the content scheduled for that session. So today, we will be looking at the preamble, the introduction, the authority statement, and Articles 1 and 2. On October 24th, we'll be reviewing Articles 3 and 4. November 21st, we'll review Articles 5 and 6. And then December 19th, we'll review Articles 7 through 10. And I'd like to start with a few comments about the RR&Ps. The committee heard you last spring when you suggested that reviewing and redlining the document in real time was tedious, boring, and took too long. So therefore, the committee worked on the document individually and in small groups over the summer to produce what we're reviewing today. So we thank you for that. I think the idea was actually Jolene's. So thank you for that idea. We did that. I thought it was. It's fine, Jolene. Jolene, it's fine. It's fine. Second comment is I am not the author of these RR&Ps. The people in the committee are the ones who wrote these. They are the Chartered Clubs Committee members. I was merely the scribe who was the central editor to prevent the confusion caused by having multiple editors independently changing the document. You may remember that from a couple years ago. So the committee, not me, is the author of these RR&Ps. And the measure of a document's effectiveness is not its number of pages. These RR&Ps were written by the Chartered Clubs Committee to be a reference document useful for everyone, clubs and association management. The document is clear and specific in describing the workings of the Chartered Club system for all involved, club officers and members, cardholders, and the association. In addition, the rewritten RR&Ps specify metrics and procedures that will help the governing board fulfill its oversight accountabilities. Clarity for all is a high priority. So why have the RR&Ps been rewritten? Weren't they fine the way they are now? Well, the answer is no, and for many reasons. For example, the current RR&Ps refer to themselves as guidelines. Guidelines are optional and are not the basis for effectively operating a system as large, complex, and expensive as the Chartered Club system. Yes, expensive. Chartered clubs are the single most expensive subsidized item in Sun City West. The RR&Ps were written decades ago and never anticipated the realities of today's societies, demands for different types of clubs, behaviors of club members, advances in technology, and so on. They are silent on some topics, for example, discipline for clubs and for club officers. They are vague and unclear, for example, in terminology, leading to perceptions of favoritism and unfair practices. The committee's guiding principles for creating this version of the RR&Ps are found in the preamble, the introduction, and the authority statements. The statement made by the governing board in 2011 that chartered clubs are for the exclusive use of its members and the occasionally invited guest were at the forefront as the committee rewrote the RR&Ps. So why is that statement so important? We only have to look back at the strong negative reaction and protests that arose when a misunderstanding about public access to the bowling lanes were raised earlier this year. Cardholders were rightfully concerned when the facilities that we all pay for might become open to non-cardholders. In addition, the rewritten RR&Ps include input from a sampling of chartered clubs via the tournaments, leagues, and special events, club track, and space utilization requirements working groups. The final reports from all of these working groups have been presented and are published on board docs. These RR&Ps were created based upon the previous version of the RR&Ps, facts and learnings, and past experiences and situations. So be assured that there was reason and logic behind what we're about to review. Approximately 80% of the concepts in the rewrite are direct transfers from the current document, while 20% are net new. These RR&Ps bring change, and change is often difficult. The committee took great care to not unreasonably burden or restrict clubs from achieving the purpose stated in their charters. Clubs that have complied with the current RR&Ps will likely see no changes. The committee recognizes that RR&P discussions can evoke passion and emotions. Robert's Rules of Orders exist so that a chairperson has guidance on how to run a productive meeting. So to that end, to maintain order, any shouting, outcries, disruptive private conversations, or other disruption will result in me calling a strike. When we hit strike 3, I'll recess the meeting for 10 minutes. Should the disruptions continue following the recess, I reserve the right to adjourn the meeting at that point. The committee will go through the portions of the RR&P scheduled for today. After they have finished, the floor will be open to comments from the audience and from YouTube. Each person will have 2 minutes per our usual practice. Please state your name, your rec card number, and the specific paragraph you wish to mention. All questions and comments from the audience must be directed to the chairperson. That's me. So with that, let's open this up for the committee. Let's turn to page 8 of the document. Is there anything that we wish to discuss about the preamble? Okay, we will go to the introduction on page 9. Anything to discuss there? We did go over these last spring, so. Okay. Page 10, the authority, the rules, regulations, and procedures. There is no counterpart for these in the current RR&Ps. Any discussion on that? Okay. Article 1, which is the definitions, begins on page 11, and the counterpart is chapter 1 on page 7 of the current RR&Ps. I will try to cross-reference those for those following along. Page 11, any discussion on any of the definitions there? Yes, Nick?
Yeah, I've just got one. It's the last one, the certificate of insurance. The last sentence, which actually runs over onto the next page. The certificate holder box, surely that would include the name of the person who's taken out the insurance, not the rec centres.
That is correct. The certificate of insurance has all of the holders' information on it, but there is a box. It's a standard insurance industry form, and that box is where this information will go.
Okay.
Okay, page 12. Any discussion? Okay, silence implies consent. Page 13. Again, we went through many of these last spring. Page 14. Yes, Paul.
Trying to do this. On page 13, paragraph 18, the statement there implies that the liaisons will proactively, well, it says will proactively assess charter clubs' adherence to them. Is that intended to mean that all liaison folks should be familiar enough with club operations to know if they're complying?
Yes, that is true.
Okay,
And with the RR&Ps as well.
right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, page, any more on 13? Okay, 14. $15. Yes, Nick.
Yeah, I've just got one. It's just the last few words on number 28 on the commingling. I'm just wondering, are there situations outside the scope of chartered clubs? Because this, I presume, the at all times and in all circumstances refers to chartered club activity.
This refers to the chartered club system.
Yeah,
So if there's anything that's outside, that's beyond our remit.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Anything else on 15? 16. Okay, 17. Okay, 18. Okay, 18, we need to discuss quorum. There's a flag in the right margin there. One of the things that came up during the discussion of the definition of quorum was the current definition says 10%. Now, if you have a club that has 50 people, that means that there are 5 people would constitute a quorum. And the question is that sufficient? Is that too small a sample? So for example, a quorum might consist of all of the board members. So the thought was that is too small. So the placeholder that was put in here was 15. So 15 or 10%, whichever is greater. So is 15 the right number? Should it be higher? 20, 25, Nick?
I think it should be higher. It's theoretically possible for you to have a quorum of 15 and then 8 people voting together as a block. So the entire club, again, it would probably be more than just the board, but I think that's too small.
Okay, what should it be?
I was thinking 20, 25.
Okay, any discussion on that?
Jack,
Yes.
I agree.
Carol.
I had that in the margin. I think 20% is far more reasonable.
20% or 20 people?
Well, I was thinking 20 people, not
Yeah,
percent.
we're discussing the minimum number of people.
20 people,
Okay,
yes.
okay. Anybody else have an idea, thought? Okay, Kathy, you're on board with 20. Okay, Nick, is that okay with you? Okay, anybody else? Lisa,
I'm on board
Vicki?
with that too.
Okay,
Jack, I
Yeah.
was thinking of an odd number,
an odd number, okay, like 27.
something like that, so that if there's a vote, you're always going to sway one way or the other instead of it being a 50-50 split,
Okay,
potentially.
so if we choose a prime number, for example. Yeah, probably a 27 is not a prime number, I know.
No, but I'm saying like 21 actually would be okay, just so that there's a
21?
tiebreaker.
Okay. 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 Okay, 21. Okay. Jamie, you okay with that? Okay, Paul? Okay, so, but you're good with 21? Okay, we'll change that to 21. Okay, Paul, what's your question?
On paragraph 52, The third sentence says, all charter club meetings are to be open to the public. I don't think we mean public, which would be anybody in Peoria or Flagstaff or anywhere else.
Open meeting laws require that they be open to the public.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, never mind.
Not that I can imagine anybody would want to come to, a club meeting, but, yeah, exactly. Okay, so we'll change number 55 to the odd number of 21. Okay? Anything else on 18?
Yes, going back to the percentage of 10%,
Okay.
is that adequate? To provide good representation from the club?
Well, what would you suggest that it be?
If you have 200 members in a club, 10% would only be 20 members. So I would think at least 15%.
One thing to consider is that there are clubs with large numbers of members. So if you say a club has 2,000 members, we don't have one of those yet, but it will happen. And right, we have some that are close. If we say 20%, that means they got to have 400 people show up. We may have a problem with a place to hold 400 people.
Okay, understand. 10% is fine.
10%, okay. Okay, anybody else on that? Okay, let's go to 19. Anything on 19? Okay, so we've covered Article 1. We will go on to Article 2, and for those with the current, that's Chapter 2, begins on page 10. The introduction here is new. So everything, we have one greater number than what's in the current RR&P. So the benefits of a charter, any discussion on those? Okay. We'll go down to establishing a club charter, number 3. These are taken pretty much directly from the current RR&Ps. Okay, conditions, application process, everything good with number 3. Okay, number 4 on page 22. Maintaining a charter. We have on number 4, which is on page 11 of the current RR&Ps. The current participation rate requirement is 75%. Hold on a second here. Is 75%. How many think that's too big? How many on the committee think that's too big? 75%. Yeah, I would agree with that. So the number that is in here on 4.3 is, excuse me, is a placeholder of 50%. Now, to give some reference here, bear with me, I forgot to pull this up. Okay, based upon club track data, which is the best data that we have, from January through July, the average, which obviously through July includes the summer months, which are low, but the average club participation rate is 41.3%. The median is 42.9%. So if you think about you know, we've got people coming back in the fall. 50% seems achievable to me as average over a 12-month period. You know, we've had, to give you an idea of the minimum and the minimum is 0% for clubs who have chosen not to report, which is going to be a problem. And then there's a maximum number of 132%, but that's a little misleading because that was due to an underreporting of the role of the club. They only had 6 members, but they had like 50 check-ins. So that's an error. But you can get an idea of the data that we've got. To give you an idea, the average roster count for a club is 272. The median is 172. The max is 1884. The total of all check-ins, and that is all check-ins that a person would have if they check in multiple times per day, all of those count as a check-in. Those are 261,880. So that's a lot of people checking into clubs, which is great. That's what the clubs are for. Now, unique check-ins, if you check in multiple times a day, you only get counted once. But unique check-ins is 7,906. So there's still, that means there are, you know, roughly a quarter of the 28,000 people who live here, roughly a quarter of them have checked in at least once into a club between January and July. So I think those are good statistics, but is 50% a good target? Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Just a question, clarification. Participation rate of 50%, does that mean that one person in 12 months attends one activity? Does that count as one?
That counts as one, yes.
So against, in other words, a club of 200 people would have to have 100 people participate once in an activity in 12 months.
So the way that participation is calculated, it is the number of unique visitors, unique check-ins, divided by the roster of the club in a month.
Got it, okay.
Whereas there's another, there's a statistic that I call activity, that if you think about a restaurant, the way they measure their business are the number of times that the same table gets used. They're called turns. And with that, you divide the number of total check-ins divided by the roster. And you want a level of 1.0 or greater for activity. A lot of clubs have, like the average activity is 1.84. So that means almost two people per, that they're turning their membership over twice. The median is 1.87. The minimum is 0, and the maximum is held by the Clay Club at 5.52. So they're cranking their members through their room. So that's great. So that's what those statistics, yeah, Paul.
Just, again, I must be slow on the math here, but you're talking on a monthly basis, you're looking at unique check-ins divided by the club population, is that correct?
That's participation, yes.
And then you take those monthly
And that's a percentage.
calculations and average those?
Yeah, and average it over a year, a 12-month period, January through December.
So you have to have 50% of your people participate at least once monthly to maintain the same percentage?
Well, no, you have to have more than that because you're going to have lower percentages during the summer.
Right, but the idea would be the goal of 50% would mean that each person, 50% of the people in the club would have to participate once a month. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it would work out the same over a year. But yeah.
Once a month, though, they would have to participate
Yeah, so
to maintain that 50%.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's a lot, it's easier, I think, with the 43% actual numbers is easier, it's easier to attain 50%. For some clubs, it may be a stretch, for others, it'll be an easy target to hit.
Is it fair to say that that might be reevaluated over time based on, you know, the facts as they
Oh,
come in?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. For
Okay.
right now, you know, we just need a number to put in there. So if 50% is good with the committee. Yeah, Carol.
If I understand this correctly, looking at doing this over a 12-month period of time, correct?
Correct.
I'm a member of a club that is only active for 6 months of the year. So the 6 months we're not active, does that mean we get a 0 participation? Or is that taken into account?
Well, according to the way this is written, you would get 0 participation for the months that you're not active.
So that will give a false,
Yeah, it would, and those are the kinds of things, this is the only data we have right now. So until we can get better data and try to figure out where the outliers are, you know, if we try to make something for every single exception, then we'll have a hugely long document. It would be very confusing. But it would, the data that would be used to make a decision on a club would take that into account. I mean,
I
we
hope so.
we can't ignore that. Yeah, Nick.
And when we discuss this in, you know, occasionally over the summer, I think I must have misunderstood. And I think if the way the measurement is going to occur as you've just described, we probably need to change the wording here, because it's a membership participation rate of 50% per month averaged over a 12-month period, is what you described, which is not what's written here.
I'm sorry, say that again.
What you described was that the clubs must achieve an average of they must have a 50% participation rate every month. And
No,
is-
it's averaged over a 12-month period.
yes, so the average monthly participation rate has to be 50%. Here it doesn't say monthly at all, it just says 50% over a 12-month period. So I read this the same way Paul read it, which is that during the course of a 12-month period, half the members of the club should turn up once, which is not what you described as the way we're measuring things.
So the way it's measured is to take, for a month, you take the unique check-ins divided by the roster count. And over the course of a year, you do the same thing.
Yes.
So you're averaging it each month. But we're not going to enforce it on a monthly basis. Is the thing.
No. What I mean is this doesn't say that. This says that every year, half your members have to turn up once, is what this is my understanding of that first sentence. What we're saying is that chartered clubs' average membership participation rate of 50% per month is required as measured by the software over a 12-month period.
It's not required per month, though. It's over 12 months. There's going to be months where you might have a 20% participation rate, months where you might have 60.
An average membership
It
participation.
says over a 12-month period. There's no need to add average. It is over a 12-month period.
But then-
It's the total of the 12-month period, over a 12-month period.
Yeah.
So every club needs somebody to turn up once in 12 months.
Well, however they get to it.
It's
There's a huge difference between having 50% of your members on average every month and 50% of your members once a year. This reads 50% of your members once a year. If our intent is it's an average of 50% per month over a year, this sentence needs rewriting.
The idea is that at the end of the year, you've had a 50% average participation rate.
the CR15. What is, if we're using that, it says end annual CR15. Does that look at each month or does it look at the annual participation.
Looks at the annual participation.
I know, I'm just asking,
Yeah.
because that's what it says.
Yeah, so at the end of the year, you'll have gotten to a 50% average. You'll have averaged over that 50% participation rate. However you got there during whichever months is up to the club. Some months you're going to have 30%, some months you're going to have 80%.
I accept that, and I understand that. The point is that's not what the first sentence here says.
What should it say?
It should say something to the effect of chartered clubs' average membership participation rate of 50% per month, an average, not a some months it will be higher, some it will be lower, is required as measured by association software over a 12-month period. This just says an average participation.
It says average, right? The third word is average.
Yeah, per month. Average membership participation rate of 50% per month.
Okay, so then if we're going to, so the problem I have with that is that implies that we're going to measure clubs monthly, and that's not what the intent is.
No,
because they're
you
going to,
calculate it at the end of the year. You say
because
how
they're going to
many-
be if I have to say they have to average 50% per month, and I go to a club in August and they've got 20% participation, I can't ding them for that.
No, I'm not saying you should.
But that's what that statement says.
No. No.
Okay, I'll tell you what, let's
I can send you some wording.
yeah,
separately.
let's discuss this offline. We clearly are not having a connection here,
No, yeah.
but I think it does require different, but I think in terms of 50, the number, the wording is maybe different, but the 50% over an annual period is acceptable?
Yes, that number is acceptable. It's-
Acceptable, okay. Paul?
I agree. We need to take this offline and
Yeah.
maybe come up with some examples and that type of thing. But I think we should also address clubs that don't use rec center facilities, bicycle club, outdoor club. Even if this doesn't apply to them or it's a different situation.
Okay, that's a rule. This is a definition. We will come back to that.
Okay,
It comes up later in the RR&Ps. Because we do only care about Sun City West facilities. So if you're out riding your bike around wherever, we don't care about that. Okay, that was a good discussion. We'll hammer out the wording offline. Page 23, club dissolution. Okay, any comments on that?
Jack,
Okay, yeah, Carol.
quick question on 5.2. If a club has used their own monies to purchase equipment or whatever, does that still revert back to the association?
Yes.
Okay.
That's part of when you form a club, that's part of the deal. The only exception is in 5.1, where law says that a 501c3 has to disperse its funding to the charities that it supports. Okay, that is all of the discussion for the committee. Are there questions, comments from the audience? Okay, please come up to the microphone and give us your name, rec card number, and the specific section you're referring to. Wait, is it turn, Martin, is that on? There should be a button on the top of it, on the body. Okay, there we go.
That better?
Yep, that's better,
Okay,
thank
yeah, my
you.
name is Mark Briggs. I'm a president of the Lapidary Club. My rec center number is 403-869. I was listening to discussion on the participation thing. It seems like it could be a lot simpler if you just made it over the course of a year, you need to have 50% of your membership participate. I'm not sure why all that other verbiage was necessary, but it just seemed like it was much easier to keep it simple.
Well, that's what I thought we were doing, but
Well, it seemed like it was pretty confusing, but maybe it's some distance away or something,
so
but I'm not sure.
I share your confusion. I have to be, I agree. We'll get it worked out. But
Okay,
the,
well, that
but
was
the
my
target
only
will be
comment.
50%.
Yeah, I don't know about all the rest of it. I just know if you want 50% of the members to
Yeah.
do it, maybe word it simply. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want us to sign in here?
Yes, please.
Okay, my name is Deborah Sinelli. My rec number is 123357. And I am the president of Creative Stitchers. I need clarification on what a unique member is. Because that number on our monthly stats that we get is far lower than the people who participated that any particular day.
So, do we have that in the definitions? We do not, so we should probably consider that, but a unique check-in, it's not a unique member, a unique check-in is on a particular day, you might come to your club room a half dozen times and swipe your card in the club track each time. Only one of those is counted as a unique check-in. And that's why that number is always less than the total number of members.
So what numbers are you doing for the 50%? Just the unique check-in numbers?
The unique check-ins.
That makes absolutely no sense. Because if
Well-
your unique check-in is 1 for the day that you were there, but 26 people checked into the room,
So then there were 26 people, there were 26 unique check-ins.
that's not how it looks on our report.
Well, then that's something you should bring up with Casey and Tim Peterson.
And the other thing is too, you used the Pottery Club as an example,
I did.
and
Oh, Clay Club.
the Clay Club, they have their own room, their own setup, they use it only for that. And they can go in there any day of the week that they want to. Work Club, we only get one room, 1 day a week. And so for you to deem us responsible for like 50%, especially in the summertime when everybody's gone and we maybe only have 10 people a week, there's no comparison. You're comparing apples to oranges, and it's unfair. And what will happen is you will put the smaller groups out.
These numbers are independent of the space that the club uses. Yes, they are. They do not relate to the space at all. Club Track does not know about space. All it knows is check-ins.
When people purchase
What
property,
is your name and rec card number?
my name is
please?
Betty Kendall, rec number 104409.
Okay, quiet, strike one.
When people purchase property in Sun City West, they are not advised of all these charter club rules. There's nothing in writing that's handed to you. This is community adult property. And we have some issues here with some employees given priority to their friends is the space that is available to them. And I think some of this should be corrected Because this is a nonprofit organization. And like, as far as your count, people that play golf in this community, when the weather is nice, you're gonna play golf. You're not going to go to a charter club, even though you're a member of a lot of them, because you do not want to be inside, you want to be outside. I know, like, I'm a member of several clubs, and I only participate in a lot of clubs when it's too hot to play golf. I think we almost need to consider the medical needs of the residents as a priority. This community has gone from 1 cardiologist on property to 16. Some of these elderly members that are handicapped can only do certain things. And that needs to be taken into consideration, and we need to make things available for those people, no matter what the count is. They've purchased in here over the years, they've donated time to this community and made it a nice community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
There I am. Jolene Piaskowski, 132268. Okay, so getting back to this unique thing and the lady that was talking about the size of her club room and the size of Clay room, so when you have a room at Coons and your room time is from 10 o'clock to 4 on Monday, and you only have 15 people come, however, you have Clay Club, who that facility is open from 8 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night, and as long as they have 2 members in their room, they can stay there, correct?
That's true of any club.
Okay, that's not true of any club, because her club can only go when she has scheduled time.
Well, it's true to have, you have to have at least 2
Right.
members.
But what I'm trying to say is that if you have only scheduled time, you are not going to be able to have that 50% participation because you don't have the whole day like Clay Club does, or like Rip and Sew does, or like the card people do on Wednesday. They have the whole day or whatever it is. So that 50% is really a high number for when you're talking a club that only has 2 hours a week, when another club has every day, Monday through Friday. So how does that work? Because that's not looking at correct numbers, right? I mean, you're still going to be able to, you can still maybe have 50% of your people, but you only have 50% of your people for 2 hours a week. Clay Club could have 50% of their people, but they've got 12 hours times 5 days.
So, Jolene, you just said it. You can have 50% of your people 2 hours a week. That's still 50%.
But Clay Club should have more because they have more time. They have more time to be in their room.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, it's, club track is irrespective of the room. So your time is up, but I will.
Not everybody signed in.
Okay. Okay. Okay, quiet down, please.
My name is Dale Hornian-Toftoy, member 39175. I too am concerned about the maintaining the charter. The 50% is way too high of a bar. Jack, I believe you said the average between January and July was 41.3%. How do you think we're going to get to 50% from August to December? I think the bar is way too high. How about computer failures? Over the past 3 weeks, our computer hasn't worked at check-in time at Coons. I don't understand the unique check-in thing, because when this first started, we were told to check in every time we walk into the room, correct? And so we have scheduled, 3 different times during our day. So now you're saying that if you just check in once, that's it. That's all that's counted in our number.
There are 2 statistics
Okay.
that are calculated. One is the unique, which gives you the participation rate. The other one is the total number of check-ins, which gives you the number of turns, if you will. and that number should be greater than 1.
Okay, and so then that would give our 50%, or just the uniques gives the 50%?
Well, the uniques would give you 50%, but the total, any decision-making would be done on a lot of other things. So the target, the reason we have to have a target is if we have clubs that are using rooms and their participation rate from their membership is 10%, and we have other clubs that are looking for space, and they're breaking they're bulging out of the room at, 90% participation rate, something has to give somewhere. So it's a fairness statistic. It's not an absolute, but it's a figure on which to make a decision.
Okay, so the 50% is just based on the unique check-ins, period.
Correct.
And I still want to stand very firmly that that bar of 50% is way too high.
Thank you.
I just have a question.
Name and number, please.
My name is David Bennett. My number is 137887. I would like somebody to explain to me why commingling is prohibited. Just a statement in your thing and what the logic is behind that.
We will discuss that in our next meeting in October.
Okay.
Hey, strike 2.
Hi, Lynn Kellis, 129120. I just wanted to answer a couple of things. It seems to be a little confusion. I am following what you're saying. I think it is a fair way to do it. I don't think people are looking at the numbers of their club and figuring out how that's going to work out, and there just needs to be a little more education there. To answer the people with Clay Club hours, we're open 8 to 4 on Monday, Friday, Saturday, and 8 to 8 the other days, closed Sunday. But I will tell you, as we have 360 members in our club. They utilize it a lot. And in fact, as our snowbirds return, we are often so full that people turn around and go home because there's not room for them to work. But overall, it's a smooth working club. We enjoy our membership and welcome you to come join us if you'd like to. But I agree with what you're saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
My name is Bill Windsor. My card number is 117152. And I appreciate the fact that, people can't just speak out. I didn't mean to be rude, but what does commingling mean?
Commingling is the practice of taking a Sun City West team and bringing in members from outside the community onto that team.
Are there many teams that do this specifically?
There have been, and we will discuss it in October.
Oh, we can't do it now?
No, we'll discuss it in October because it will come up again in October. So I'd rather just do it once.
Well, okay. My opinion is that there's nothing wrong with commingling that time.
Okay, that's very close to strike 3.
Well, excuse me, we can't talk about it.
Hey,
What did this strike 3 mean?
it means that we will recess. I explained this in the beginning, that we will recess the meeting if people are going to be disruptive. And then we'll come back after 10 minutes, and if it occurs again, I reserve the right to adjourn the meeting. Okay, any other questions, comments from the audience?
Do I have a chance to ask again or no? Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry for shouting out. Same person as was up here before. The other question I have is regarding the definitions. Number 2, the definition of accommodation. I hadn't seen that in previous RR&Ps, and I'd like a little bit of explanation further into the definition of what you can ask an accommodation for. It's number 2 in the Article 1 of under definitions.
So with these RR&Ps, there are no exceptions.
Right, I've read that.
There is an accommodation.
I
An
read that.
accommodation is a temporary adjustment or adaptation of a specific rule. It is something that has to be justified, and it has a begin date and an end date.
Like, can the end date, beginning date be January 1 to December 31?
Sure, if it's
Okay.
justified.
And then I read the whole thing later on in the RRPs of all the things that you have to write down. But I wanted to know if it involved all the rules that are in the RRPs.
It involves all the rules that are in the RR&Ps. The reason this is there is that over time, there have been exceptions granted that had no end dates, and they've just gone on for decades.
Okay, all right, that's the end of my question.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Gary Smith. My number is 127248. I know you're going to take it offline, but I would really try and understand the intention of the whole thing of the 50%. And let me give you 2 examples, okay? Or 1 example. 100 members. I need to have 50 of them participate somewhere through the course of that 12 months. Or 100 members, and I need to average 50 a month over the 12 months. What is the intention? Because the way you said it was not the way it's written. And the way it's written, it tells me it'd be 50 would be unique ones through the course of a year, not 50 every month average.
So the idea is that the measurement is taken after a 12-month period. It's not taken every month. So that by the end of the year, the club will have averaged 50 members participating in the club. So the idea,
Anytime through that 12 months.
anytime during that 12 months, the idea is that here's why this exists. There have been clubs in the past that have padded their rosters. So they could say, oh, I've got 900 members. But in fact, what they've never done is cleared their rosters of people who have moved away, died, not returned to the club, and so on. So they were using those numbers to justify larger spaces. So what we had happening is that large spaces were being allocated to clubs with small numbers of actually participating members.
I'm fine with the need for it. I just wanted to try and understand where you were going, because the way you described it wasn't what it said. Because 50 a month would mean, for 100 members, 50 a month would be 600 unique check-ins for that club of 100 over the course of a year,
Right.
right? So,
Well, no. No.
well, that's the math.
Okay.
That's the math. That's why I'm trying to understand.
But it's not 50 a month. So we got 2 minutes. Like I said, we'll take this offline and get it figured out.
My question to you, Jolene Paskowski, 132268. You just said something about clubs having people on their roster. Casey, do they not have to do a form at the end of the year, and their membership has to match up with their roster number?
They do now. It didn't used to be that way.
When did that go in place?
Since I've been here.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me, because you're saying that right now. And the fact of the matter is, Casey's been here for what, 7 years?
Well, in this position for 2. But,
For 2, but.
I will say, they're no longer a club anymore. I'm not gonna say who it is, but they had lifetime membership. They weren't in compliance with the RR&Ps, so that deemed them to step down as a chartered club. So that's probably the example. When people are adding husbands particularly to the rosters and the husbands never once show up, that's padding the roster. It's very, very common with some clubs.
Okay, so just so you know, I know my husband's rec card number. So if he belongs to the club and I'm there to check in, I can check him in too, correct? I mean, I'm just saying.
Of course.
So
But we
then he
don't
would be there.
encourage that.
Oh, well, then he would be there, right? So again, we're missing the point here in the sense of, you know, you guys are making us pad our numbers because we have to make the numbers, and now we have to make the 50%.
No, it's currently 75.
Okay, so I'm just saying that you can, the club tracker, you can check in anybody if you know the record
And
number.
Jolene, you're absolutely right. But what will happen is we'll find out that there are people who are not actually there. And the part of it is it's an honor system. And if those are people who are going to be dishonorable, then, you know, that's something we can't deal with. But, you know, it's an honor system.
Okay.
Okay,
But
time's up.
Look, I can reach the damn podium. My name is Eva Weisberg, 104294. How are you going to address the fact that the club track computers are broken a good part of the time? And when I go to a club, I could try to check in maybe 20 or 30 times and the machine is not working. And so anybody that comes in that day is a wash.
The computers are not broken.
Well,
No. Hold on.
Correct, the computers are not broken, the
They are
program
not.
is down.
They are not broken. If the program is down, I mean, you don't see do you see the club track check-in screen?
Yes.
Okay, then it's up.
But it doesn't.
Hold on. There are two primary reasons that if club track is not working. One is the Wi-Fi is down, and there's nothing you can do about that except to report it to the recreation or to the center supervisor. The other reason, and the primary reason this happens, is that the cursor is not in the box where you check in your number. If that is not highlighted in orange,
Yeah, I understand
it
that
will
part.
appear it doesn't
Right.
work.
I'm just saying, is that being taken into consideration when the Wi-Fi is down? Because it's happened
We have no way
quite
of knowing.
often.
We have no way of knowing.
So there are whole days that go by when the.
Well, the other thing you can do, and Jamie's just reminded me, there's a CR15 you have to fill out. So if you're filling that out manually, you will get credit for those numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, it's a 4A, sorry.
Yeah, that gets turned in with financials.
Lynn Kellis, 129120. I just wanted to give 2 bits about what we do, basically. In the Clay Club, when the system is down, we have a monitor who checks people in. That monitor has them put you put your name and number down on the sheet. Once the system comes back up, that monitor or the next one in line after her will re-enter all of those numbers so everybody gets credit. It works just fine. And the other item is that when you do have a monitor, and I was under the impression that all charter clubs did, apparently they don't, we have our monitor and the view set is facing her. So if someone comes to flag in the club, they get the picture up there and it states whether they're in good standing or not with the rec center. So if somebody comes and tries to flag their husband or their cousin or whoever in, it's not going to go. They're going to be stopped and say, sorry, you can't come in. So just a thought, you might want monitors.
Thank you, Lynn. I will add that the issues about club track that are being brought up here have been researched and reported on by the Space Utilization Requirements Working Group. I urge you to go out and look at board docs for that final report. It talks about these issues and what needs to be done if we're going to address this on a go-forward basis.
Again, Deborah Sinelli, 123357. Clay Club. It sounds like you are doing everything exactly right, but let me tell you something. Stitchers meets 1 day a week. We have one monitor a week. We cannot wait for the next monitor.
Please talk into the microphone so that
We
people
cannot wait for the next monitor to come in and put in all those numbers, because that doesn't happen until the next week. And guess what happens at midnight on Monday? Club Track resets, and you cannot go back and add more names. Ask Tim, he's told me that I don't know how many times. So if your club is open from 8 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night and you have multiple monitors, that may work fine for you. But when the system is down, and sometimes I've even gone in and tried to reboot it, because I know a little bit more about computers than a lot of the other women in our club. So I've gone in and tried to reboot the system to get it up and running, and it still doesn't work. And it's not because they don't have their cursor in the box, and it's not because it doesn't come up and say Club Tracker. It just doesn't work. It won't scan your card. It won't let you type in anything. So even if we sign in with name and numbers, there is no way we can go back in and put those numbers in that day and have them count.
Okay, thank you. I want to bring the discussion back away from Club Track issues, back to the topics that we discussed earlier today.
While you're doing that, sir, I kind of want to reiterate this. You guys talk about Club Track not working. We did a brief orientation back in April, I think it was. And Debbie, we're going to meet tomorrow on this. But if you guys are having any issues, whether it's Wi-Fi or you're having issues with the hardware itself, we did request that you guys do reach out to the lead and see if they can handle it. Sometimes it's a quick reboot, unfortunately, easy peasy stuff. But the first thing you need to do is please reach out to your lead. And then there's some FAs that do roam around quite a bit as well. So here I know in the breezeway, there's always FAs in and out. So we do try to train them so that they know what they're doing. So we try to have the right staff in the right places to help for you guys to succeed.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Carlos Romero, 133177, back to the 50%. And to the clarification that I didn't quite hear your answer, what it was. When the gentleman over here talked about the 100 and the 50%, so are you talking about 50 unique members need to sign in over a year, or 600 members need to sign in over a year? What is the answer?
Yeah, 600 over a year.
600 over a year. I don't think it was said. Okay, so now we know what you mean.
Yeah.
So it is 50% on average per month.
Okay.
Okay, so which I think is too high based on.
It's 75 right now.
Okay. Just listen to what I'm saying as a suggestion. Before you stated 41, 42% on average for the first 6 months. The second 6 months are probably the same thing, so it's probably going to average in there. So the 75 was obviously wrong. So the 50 is a step in the right direction. It still may be too high, depending on, of course, how the numbers are going to be used going forward. The other point I wanted to make was the lady that was talking about the small clubs. And I think what she's trying to say is that since they only have a limited amount of hours available per week, it's very likely that they'll never be able to hit the 50% because they just don't have the space. I realize also that club may be smaller, and based on unique sign-ins and usage, they may be allotted more time. But it's going to be very hard for them to hit those numbers. The smaller the club, most likely, the less likely it is that they will hit the numbers. And just take that as a suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is the first time I've attended one of these meetings, and I want to thank you all that are up there that you let us join you. I currently belong to, my name is Jamie Rothschild, excuse me, and my number is 133567. And I guess I have two comments. I'm just wondering how you see yourselves serving the community, because I feel a little bit stressed being in this room because there seems to be hostility from the committee members, and there is perhaps some in the audience. And it's a little bit disconcerting for me because I believe that people move to Sun City West because of the reputation it has for being a welcoming environment and has a whole host of clubs as well as other amenities. I think that I would appreciate if we could have kind of a lighter mood in this room, because some people who exercise will probably go and do 10, 15, 20, 30 miles after this meeting, and people who drink will probably go to the pub, and people who do other legal kinds of things will probably go to their favorite store. So that's really my thing that I'm feeling right now, that we're all here to serve the community. And I would like to see, you can ask me, well, why don't you join and be a part of this, committee, which maybe I will do in the future, but unfortunately I don't live here full time. So I just wanted to say that hopefully the next time I'm here, there'll be more of a mood of enlightenment for everybody.
Thank you.
This is Bill Windsor again. I'm less than young, and some of these things kind of go by me, but now I happen to be belong to the tennis club, and there's a huge number of our members who don't play tennis. They're just boosters. They played tennis 10 years ago, 7 years ago, and so they don't go down and check in, but yet they're on the roster. Now, how does that affect the figures here?
That will actually work against you.
That's what I'm afraid of. Yeah, so is there any way we can, for instance, could we have associate members that aren't really part of the given roster?
There are only one classification of membership for all clubs.
That's today.
No, it's still part of the RR&Ps. There's
Well,
one.
is that engraved in stone?
Yes,
Who engraved it?
this committee
Well, I mean,
and the governing board.
Well, so
has
is it
approved it.
changeable by some act of the majority?
Why do they have to be a member of your club if they're not playing?
Because they're tennis boosters. They've played for years and years and years, and they come there to socialize, and that is actually true of the Clay Club and these others. A lot of people don't come there and don't even get their hands dirty.
But they don't have to be a member to be a booster. You have to. Everything goes through me.
Well, if a person happens to like to watch people do things with clay, can they go to these meetings and not be a member?
That's up to the club to decide that.
Well, I think that's a situation that prevails.
That's the club's decision to make it. If they want to have non-playing, non-participating members, then that's going to work against them.
So there's no way
Okay, time's up. Any other comments? I have a couple from online. A request to define participation and unique check-ins. Again, participation is determined by the number of unique check-ins divided by the roster of the club, and that turns out to be a percentage. And another question is, if the system is down, are required to submit a written roster for the day? That's in your best interest to do that, yes. And then there's more discussion about the 50%. I'm not going to touch that. We're going to talk about that offline, and we'll get that worked out. So, yes, sir.
My name is Dave Bennett, number 137887. I'm confused. You just said it's all up to the club to do these things, and yet the governing board and the rec board all seem to want to set these things in stone and not leave it up to the governing boards of the individual clubs. So
I'm not following your statement.
As an example, I know you don't want to bring it up today, but commingle. For 20 years, softball voted every year whether to keep it or not, and every year it was voted to continue. Then after I was down here one year, then they suddenly took it away from me. Can't do that anymore because the governing board says they can't do that. I thought the governing board would oversee all of the clubs, but leave the governance, how the clubs are run, to the club boards. That's what they're there for. And unless they're doing something illegal,
okay, so
immoral.
Let me answer your question. I refer you back to page 9 of the rewritten RR&Ps, where it talks about the statement that was adopted by the governing board in 2011. The rec center facilities have been paid for jointly by all the members of the association. Correspondingly, the use of these facilities is limited to its dues-paying members and their occasionally invited guests. The chartered clubs shall reinforce the principle that their recreation centers of Sun City West are for the exclusive use of its members and an occasionally invited guest. Now, that is a rule set in place by the governing board. That is one of the rules that comes with creating a chartered club.
But I understand, but they have the same thing at Sun City. And we go over there and use their facilities and they don't care.
They have different rules. Yep.
Hi, I'm back. My name is Mark Briggs. I'm president of Lapidary Club. Our number is 403-869. And I still I kind of got confused. You were talking to the one guy about participation, and all of a sudden you said we needed 600 for the year. And the way I kind of, when I left, it seemed like if we simplified the language, because this is where I got confused. It was 50% over the course of the year that we need the members to participate. Was that correct, or was I not understanding what you were saying?
Like I said, we're going to take this offline and we'll come up with language that is more easily understood.
I see. Okay.
Clearly, I have not succeeded in that area.
Sorry, Pam Kice, 402-401. I'm president of the Boomers. One of the very first statements that you read was that the clubs of Sun City West are the most expensive thing in this community. I do believe that when Del Webb built this community, he built it for the golf courses and the clubs, and that's what people move here for. So I hope we can get all of this taken care of and we can support all the clubs.
Yeah, the fact that the clubs are the most expensive doesn't mean that they're not valued, but they are the most subsidized amenity that we have here in Sun City West. Yeah, as they should be. I'm not disagreeing. Any other questions or comments? Okay, then I'll go to comments from the committee. Judy or Kathy? Carol?
I would just like to say to everyone here that this past year, we've spent a lot of time and a lot of effort working on trying to make these RR&Ps the most fair to every person in this community. Now, that may mean that some clubs need to make some adjustments, but the intent and the bottom line has always been not to exclude anyone, but to make it the most fair as humanly possible.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Nick?
Yeah, I just have one comment. Our chairman, Jack, did say that at one point that 20% of the things in these RR&Ps are new. I wouldn't agree with that. I think it's a lot lower than that. And if you, as members and officers of a club, feel that these new RR&Ps are going to prevent you doing something in the future which you are already doing now, it's highly likely that what you're doing now is actually breaking the rules as they currently exist. These are clarifications and expansions for the sake of clarification. They're not new rules which are designed to prevent you from doing something that you can already do if what you're already doing is following the current rules.
Thank you, Nick. It's his language, you know, English. So that's why I rely on Nick to keep me in line. Okay, Vicki?
I couldn't have said it better than Carol or Nick, so I won't say it again.
Connie?
Ditto.
Okay. Jamie?
No, nothing.
Okay. Maria?
I do have something. I'm one of the newest members on this committee, so this is the first time I sat up here and saw this many people in the audience. I was on another committee before, and we didn't have this much participation. So thank you for, number one, for coming out and having a voice and talking, because that's how we work through issues, right? We're not always going to agree, you know, but the disagreement builds onto a solution. So keep that in mind, and that's my mindset as I'm sitting up here. You're not always going to hear something you like, and sometimes you hear things you don't like, right? But we're a team, right? We're a community. We work together. So I love what Carol said earlier. We want to make this fair and equitable for everyone, and that's why there's rules. And sometimes the rules we don't agree with, but that's how you keep it fair and equitable. So thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Paul?
Yeah, just one comment. I would hope when we do this offline, which I think is exactly the right way to do this, because there's so many issues that the folks have brought up, that we also include data from clubs so we can actually see what the numbers are over time and have that inform whatever percentage we think is appropriate. And also address the different sizes of clubs, room situations, and so forth, because there's a lot of good issues there. But I think we need to look at the data to see how whatever rule we come up with, percentage, would affect various clubs, and use that as a guide as well.
And to that point, we have Club Track. Club Track is not perfect, as we all know, but we do have more data than we've ever had before. So the 50% target is just that. It's a target. And as we get more data, and as the recommendations from the space utilization requirements working group are considered and actions are taken, we will be able to get better data. Right now, we've got kind of at a gross level. So it's a target. You know, that means it's, you know, you don't always hit the target, but we got to have something, and it's the best number that we've got right now. Okay. Judy?
Carol said it perfectly, and I just want you folks to know that we do have your best interest at heart.
Okay, thank you. And I have no more from online, so with that, I will adjourn this meeting. And we will go over the RR&Ps again in October.